Sup guys, Heretic of You here. Um, I know what you're thinking. This looks like a battle report. In fact, that's what it was going to be. This was one of my latest battles that I filmed. But, and I'll get into reasons later, we are not going to do a battle report. Instead, we're going to talk about um, something a little bit more, I think, a little bit more helpful, which is what I'm calling the newbie's guide, what you really need to know about getting into Infinity. Now, the reason why I'm doing this, the timing of it, is basically, it's pretty simple. So, Beast of War, they released a video on uh, a teaser for Operation Red Veil, which looks like a two-player starter pack for Infinity, and it looks eerily similar to Operation Ice Storm. And I'm personally, I hope it's basically what they're doing the same with Ice Storm, except they have chosen two new factions. Um, that being Hak Islam for this one and Hu Xing. Um, so if it's the exact same thing as Ice Storm, which I'm guessing it is, I don't have any insider information on that, but I'm guessing that's basically what it is. I think it's going to draw some new blood into Infinity, and so I thought I'd put together this kind of useful video on what kind of hurdles that I ran into. Yeah, I've been playing Infinity um, for a little bit over a year now, and it started with Operation Ice Storm. And there's some things that I wish that I knew before getting into the game, before even buying Operation Ice Storm, um, that would help me make a more informed decision. I'm not saying I regret it. That's not what I'm saying. In fact, full disclosure, I am a big fan of Infinity at this point. As you could tell by my history of vids, most of them have been about Infinity. So, I'm not saying that I regret it, but there are things about Infinity that make it. Well, let's put it this way: Infinity is has one of the steepest. Excuse me, one of the steepest learning curves of all the tabletop games I've played, and let's see, I've been playing tabletop games since the early tabletop war games since the early 90s, and just even you can look at the history of this channel, and you can see I bounced around from games like 40K and Fantasy, Relic Knights and Malifaux and all kinds of stuff. In my experience, Infinity has the highest initial learning curve. Now, what makes it so high is also kind of what I like the most, and that is its complexity. And Infinity's complexity is made not to confuse the player, but it's more of to help build a narrative. To make it's more like it's more RPG almost, in the way that the equipment, and there's different types of ammos, different types. I mean, not to get off course here, but for example, there are like three types of like, or I don't know. There's probably more than three types. There's multiple types of your basic rifle, and so like a combi rifle is different than a rifle, or a multi rifle, or a viral rifle. They're all very different, but they're rifles, and there are different types of camos. You've got limited camo, and you have TO camo, and you have camo. So there's complexity in in skills and equipment, and we'll sort of get into that layer later on. So, anyways, if you're thinking about getting into Infinity, the first thing that I wish someone had told me was that Infinity has something called the N3 rulebook, right? But not all of the rules are contained in that rulebook. It's actually there's what was just released is called Human Sphere 3, which contains additional rules. It's going to contain rules that are mentioned in the main rule book, but the main rule book doesn't cover those things, and we're talking specific types of items, or sometimes rules. And in Human Sphere 3, there's changes to weapons profiles and stuff like that. So the first thing you need to realize when you get into Infinity is that there's rules, and they're kind of spread out between the books that they make. Okay, now all of this is available for download online, so you can read the rule books, and you can read even Human Sphere 3, the rules for that, for free before you make up your mind. Okay. The second thing that I think people should realize, like, if you're first getting into Infinity and you buy either Operation Ice Storm, or in this case it's probably going to be Operation Red Veil, if you buy any of that, it's going to come with kind of a light rulebook with missions and everything like that. The mistake that I made when I was playing Infinity is I bought the Operation Ice Storm box, and I jumped right into Infinity. What I should have done was I should have actually played the missions in Operation Ice Storm, and maybe played them multiple times. The one thing about Ice Storm, and I'm thinking it's going to be the same case with the Red Veil, is that the missions are specific to the models that come in the box set. So, and it builds up over time. So, like, so mission 1, you're going to be dealing with just your basic light infantry guys, right? And then mission 2, they're going to introduce another model to your force, and he's going to have different equipment or a special rule or something, and it goes on, and it builds up like that. So, and it's a really helpful, it's a really smart way of introducing Infinity in a very easy to understand way. And if you try to skip that because you think, well, I'm a veteran wargamer, I don't need to go through the newbie steps, it actually helps. So, I say step number 2 is kind of follow the path that Corvus Belli has kind of laid out for you if you're new. It might seem oversimplistic to just do a battle where it's 3 light infantry guys versus 3 light infantry guys, but trust me, even the rules in the basic Operation Ice Storm book, that's going to be sort of the basis of Infinity. Okay, most of your stuff you're going to be doing, like move and shoot and declaring arrows, are going to be covered in that book. Okay, so getting that down packed would really help. Okay, so just those are a couple of key things that you need to know. Okay, the other thing I wish I knew, and this is going back to the multiple books, is that Well, hang on. I'm jumping. I'm jumping ahead. Sorry. It's my own freaking video, and I'm off topic. Alright. So the other thing, right? What I wanted to say about doing the missions in Operation Ice Storm, or doing the missions in let's say Operation Red Veil, um, is that if you go out, right, and you get a pickup game of Infinity, one of the things that's going to happen to you, guaranteed, is you're going to run into a guy who's going to drop something on you, something crazy, because Infinity, it's a sci-fi universe, and they have, lots of crazy technology, and some guy's going to come at. For example, my first game of Infinity, the guy tells me, "All right, I'm going to deploy something, but I need you to turn around, and I need to take a picture of it, and to prove that that's the location." So there's this hidden deployment thing, something that I've not seen, and you just never deal with in a regular war game. And at first, it seems like that's it's game breaking, or it's unbalanced. It, but the thing about Infinity, so this is getting into point number 3, is no matter what you run into, they have built in natural countermeasures for, right? So, for example, your first Infinity game, you might run into somebody who throws a lot of smoke grenades, right? So his smoke grenade is blocking line of sight to your troops. And then you think, well, that's dumb, man. I mean, I'll never be able to shoot him. I'll never be able to declare an arrow and shoot him while he moves. Not realizing that in your force, you're going to have access to a countermeasure. In that case, it'd be multi-spec visors, or you know. And so it seems like it's game breaking, some of the abilities, some of the equipment that somebody might drop on you, but you have to realize through reading the rule book, reading the equipment, and knowing your army lists, there's usually a counter for everything. There's nothing that's too overpowering in Infinity. There's stuff that it seems impossible to, like, even like Zero V smoke, or what they call Nimbus or Eclipse smoke. I think it's called Eclipse smoke now. There are ways to counter this. So that's one thing you need to know, is there are built-in countermeasures. The other thing you need to know, I think, where are we on point 4? About before you get into Infinity, is if you're ready to jump into a full game. Let's say you've gotten your games of Red Veil or Ice Storm in, and you've got a good grasp of those rules, and now you're ready to graduate and go to the main rule book. And when it comes to building your list, it's detailed in the book, the rule book, but not really. Here's what I'm going to suggest to you. Okay, you go to the website and you go to Army. I think they're on Army version 6. Okay, and you build your army using that. It's made by the company. It's supported by the company. And it does everything for you, and it'll list. One thing that's awesome about it is when you print it out, it will list all your weapon profiles, everything that you picked on your list, right? So you don't have to fumble through the rule book or whatever looking for weapon ranges. In your typical war games, you usually get away with pen and paper, or like in the case of like Malifaux or Relic Knights, you just need the cards and you just do some quick math and you're ready to go. In Infinity, there's a little bit of prep that needs to be done, and and I can't stress how much of a valuable tool the army builder is for Infinity. Okay, just know that it's built for ITS, which stands for the Infinity Tournament System. Okay, so you'll see on the list there's a little green check mark, or it'll say the list doesn't, meet. It's illegal for some reason. Now, if you're just starting out, I would ignore that, um, because it's taking into account the ITS rules, which is again additional rules to the game of Infinity. In this case, ITS rules are uh, sort of tournament restrictions, right? Um, One thing they factor in is something called special weapons costs, and so it's so that you can't just load up on the most powerful, shit in the game. It's gonna cost, and it caps out, and it's done on a scalable point system. Basically, every 50 points, um, you get one SWC to spend. Okay, so um, so in addition to a model's cost, you will see an SWC cost on that model, and he might cost extra because he has a weapon that is considered more rare, you know. So just know that exists. But when you're just starting out, um, I'd say if you just have the starter box, then you really don't have to worry about that stuff. But as you gradually add things to your army, or you start researching and trying to add, what models you want to add, just remember that if you're thinking about tournaments, um, or even pickup games, most people go by the restrictions of the ITS. Okay, and that's another thing. Infinity has complexity in that there are multiple ways of playing Infinity. Okay, so the most popular one right now is the ITS system. There are other systems like I forgot what it's called. YAMS, yet another something system that exists out there. But the one that is basically supported by Corvus Belli is the ITS system. Um, and as you start your journey into Infinity, you're going to realize that the ITS system, it's pretty balanced, and this leads me up to the next point. When you start battling in Infinity, okay, um, this is a game that you really do need some sort of goal or objective to, or it becomes a very static game. If there's no reason to move in Infinity, the weapon ranges, just take your basic rifle, can shoot across the table. Um, sure, there's tons of modifiers to it, but I mean, it without a motivating factor, like, grab this thing in the middle of the table, or take control of this thing, or rescue this thing, well, Infinity can actually suffer that way. And when someone kind of asks me for a demo, what I like to do is I'll pick an interesting mission like the armory, something where there's a central objective, so that both players have to sort of move forward. And in Infinity, um, It's not just where you move, it's how you move. Which brings me to my next point. Um, when you start playing Infinity, whether you're at home or you're playing in the game store, just know that you're going to need a shit ton of scenery. Okay? A shit ton. Now, if you're the kind of guy that just plays at your house and you're not used to playing with scenery, the starter box is going to come with buildings and everything. Now, just so you know, the amount of buildings and they probably come with these like cargo, um, crates and stuff. It's only good for that size of the mat that they give you. Okay, don't mistake that for a full-on 4x4 table. Okay. Um, in fact, if you wanted to, if you want cheap terrain, Corvus Belli sells that paper terrain that will come with Operation Ice Storm and probably Operation Red Veil, and it comes with the USR box, and they're starting to include this. It's really not bad stuff, um, and you get it for like $10, like a full set. I would say for a 4x4 table, you're probably going to want to play with at least 2.5 sets of that paper terrain. That's how much terrain is when it comes to Infinity, is how important it is, because you're constantly looking for terrain. You're moving from cover to cover in this game because of the arrow system. And if you don't play with enough terrain, trust me, it's going to be a negative play experience. You're just going to get shot if you move, and it's going to seem like a very dumb game where it's, you can't really do anything. So stack, buy cheap terrain. Dormy Khan has a video, if you want to look him up, where he buys a bunch of like Kleenex boxes from the 99-cent store and like draws ladders on them, and it's good enough. Like me, I kind of went all out on terrain, and I wanted stuff that you could actually, buildings where you guys enter in, because the cool part of Infinity is the interaction with terrain. My first game, I remember, crawling from window space to window space. Actually seeing the models having to duck, because you can get shot through the windows. Hackers can hack doors open. You can blow up doors. I mean, the depth in this game is what makes it kind of a daunting task to learn once again. But for me, I love that level of detail in this game. It's immersive, and it sucks you in. You feel like you're playing in the sci-fi universe instead of just rolling dice and moving models around. So, for me, it's a great game. If you're once this box set drops and you buy it, the only advice the main advice I would give to you is, baby steps. It took like I'm playing. I've been playing Infinity for like over a year. To this day, me and my friends, we are still looking up rules during games just to make sure we got things right. And so don't feel bad if it seems a little too complex. It's there's a lot to this game, but the payoff is when you play it and you understand everything that's going on. It feels like nothing else to me. For a tabletop game experience, I'm not saying it's a perfect game. I'm not trying to fanboy out right now. Don't get me wrong. There's plenty that I could say that, you know, it's, for one, Infinity might not be for everyone. Okay, it definitely isn't for everyone. If you're a guy, if you love War Machine because the rules are concise, they're tight, and there's no wiggle room around them, this might not be the game for you. Okay, there's a lot of language that can be confusing about this game, and there's a lot of things that you might not have encountered, and then you encounter for the first time, and you're like, well, that just seems impossible to stop until you know, you do a little bit more research. Anyways, I don't know, guys. What else can I tell you? That, I'm personally excited about this new release, and I think, hopefully it'll draw more players in. But my sincere hope is that you find this video, if you're new, and you're like, man, I love the models, I love the art, and it sounds great, but when I try to put it all together, it just seems like this ball of mess, right? When you first look at the game, it's just one of the things. I remember getting to the hacker section the first time, and I remember my head exploding. Like, what? There's like 12 pages on hacking alone, and that made me not want to play hackers. I didn't play a hacker for a very long time, just because those rules were so daunting. And I wish there was like a video like this that says, you know what? It's okay. It's okay to be confused. I'm here to help. Hopefully, this helps you make a decision about the game. If it sounds like your cup of tea, great. I say this is the best time to get into it, because they're putting together these 2-player sets that are amazing, sculpts and everything like that. And it, but if it doesn't sound like it's for you, then good. Hopefully I saved you some money. And hopefully this isn't 30 minutes of rambling for no reason. But hey, it's a video, and you got to hear my legitimate thoughts on Infinity, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed them. So I will see you guys after Anime Expo. I'm gonna bring the camera and hopefully get some cool video, of cosplay and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm a big fan of anime, and I kind of geek out about that stuff too. So yeah, I will see you on the next one.